When I first went back, seeing the rice terraces and seeing what many broke their backs to build and preserve, showed me that I didn't need material things, just knowledge of our culture and wisdom to pass to the next. So now, every time I see a Filipino or Filipina, I just headhunt right away.
You got what tatted on you?
Everybody move with my people all that. They took our truth and they rewrote that. What you gonna do? We'll put us on the map. Show me where you from, let me see those tats.
My name is Valentine Costuna and this is My Tattoo Tales. We have a huge Afro native presence called the Aita people. They would practice scarification. So there's evidence of like cutting tools and scarring tools. This is a replica made also by El. Like what we're really famous for, thanks to Maria Apawang in Kalinga. It's a Kalinga style tool which they would usually use in reverse and sort of tap into the skin like this. Move along. But you can see even the details on these. These have all been carved by chief of our tribe, El Feston, by hand, based off of like artifacts that he's bought over the years.
Masubo pero luwas kita Japon. Imo, bata ako, ilo. Kadayon! Had to fight through so much to be us, cause it be like that. All these marks and these scars show that part, let me see those tats. From the start we were strong with the art, cause it be like that. Big flips, big moves, our truth, those roots, let me see those tats. Mula sa wala, mundo ay nilikha. Nilog na mukha, sa siklab nagsimula. Mula sa wala, mundo ay nilikha. Nilog na mukha, sa siklab nagsimula.
Raise your hand if you reppin' Filipino. Passing this manna like a blessing to my people. Always bear witness, nothing is scripted. Those who rob our culture get chopped down with a quickness. I rep the foe cause it reps our ethnicity. Melting pot diaspora, barangay every city.
What's up, my name is Valentine Costuna. I'm born in Australia, but of Filipino descent. My ancestors come from Eastern Samar, of the Waray tribes in Philippines, and I am a chef and aspiring cultural tattooist.
What's going on, y'all? It's Z here, back at you with another episode. We're here at Spiritual Journey Tattoo, Southern California, Stanton. I'm here with the pleasure of speaking to
Valentine Costuna.
Okay, man, what's going on, bro?
I'm living good, man. Just enjoying my time out here in California. First time to LA, and it's coming to an end, but I've had the trip of a lifetime.
Okay, dope, man. I'm glad we can connect, I guess, on a short time basis and make this happen.
Likewise, man. Thank you for coming out and for setting this up.
Yeah, man. It's I'm definitely grateful for the opportunity because I'm obviously a podcast trying to build a community here and just to get some information on what you're about, your tribe's about, and just kind of diving deeper into this because I know kind of nothing about tribal, and I'm sure some of my viewers might not know too much either, and so I'm just grateful that we can kind of get the spill here.
For sure. Likewise, man. I'm grateful to have the platform, the opportunity to speak a little bit about it and represent the tribe.
Dope. You just recently kind of started tattooing. I don't know how long. How did we come along with that, and what just kind of made you jump into that journey?
Yeah, for sure, man. So I've had an interest and like a passion for tattooing, specifically Filipino tattoos, for many years, since before I was an adult. And I basically had been doing my own research and started getting tattoos when I was like 18 years old, going back to Philippines to do so for the first few times. And ultimately my research just kept leading me in a specific direction, and that was to an organization called Tatak ng Apat na Alon, which is the mark of the Four Waves tribe. And it was founded and sort of based out here in the Los Angeles County by who's become my mentor and funnily enough actually a relative of mine, El Feston, along with another 9 original founding founding members. So they nearly 3 decades ago founded an organization to try and, I guess, revive, promote and preserve indigenous cultural practices and of the Philippines and of the native people of the Philippines. So my journey in search of information and for identity kept leading me back here until I met Elle about maybe 5-6 years ago, while they were touring around in Europe for tattoo conventions. And we spoke a lot, and it was ultimately his sort of inquiry and encouragement that led me to actually explore the idea of tattooing. So I had been doing drawing and research for a long time, but he asked me one night, like when I think we were in Amsterdam, visiting some tribe members there, and he was sort of confused. He's like, why didn't you ever try to learn to tattoo? Or why didn't you ever want to learn to tattoo? And I was in this position where I just never saw that it was possible. You know, I didn't see myself as an artist. I wasn't a very capable drawer, like with pens and pencils. I never had a knack for that. You know? So I didn't believe that I kind of had what it took, but I still had an interest. I was still drawing. I was still doing research on
some passion behind it. Yeah.
And designing little tattoos for myself and family members. And he sort of just asked the question, and there was another member that was there, and I was just saying, hey man, like I see you have a passion for it, and if it's something that you want to learn, you know, we have the means to teach you. I have the means to teach you. So he sort of called out to one of the other tribe members who's an artist here at Spiritual Journey, Joseph, and said, hey man, like we're going to show him some basic hand poke like techniques. Are you, like, it's cool if he tattoos you tomorrow, right? And Joseph was like, yeah, okay, for sure. Yeah. So that was about 2 years ago now, and the journey in the beginning was slow. But that's basically where it started. You know, I went from having a passion for the art and for the culture, trying to reconnect, to then being encouraged and invited out here to California to sort of hone the skills. And I'm still early on in that journey, but I've come a long way in even a short amount of time.
Yeah, dope. Yeah. Nah, man, just to be, I guess you could say, be that rooted, you're kind of searching to stumble upon. I guess this probably opened up a new wave of your searching, because now you're kind of putting that type of ink on other people. So I'm sure it opened up a new mindset of, you know, what you were searching for. 100%. But just to like have that type of mentorship, in the tattoo culture, I know a lot of people do the whole apprenticeship, and I don't know if it's the same as in tribal compared to, you know, a normal tattoo or whatever tattoo shop. So I mean, to even have that type of mentorship, because it runs deeper, I feel like, in tribal rather than, you know, just kind of getting an image or something like that. I feel like it's just a little more, like I said, rooted.
Yeah, I would suggest there's probably a different nuance to the research that you do. I think, you know, and thankfully, you know, I've come right to essentially the mecca or the source of like information. So Elle and other members of the tribe like have been compiling information for, as I said, nearly 30 years now. It's been 27 years since the tribe was established, and he has a collection, like a huge collection of artifacts, of
knowledge,
textbooks, of articles, and like an entire library, and
runs
basically
deep.
Gallery that he's just been compiling, and so even more so than I expected. You know, when I got here and he sort of took me around in his gallery and library, I was like, damn, man, like I knew you had information, but
not like this.
I didn't understand to the depth and to the extent that he'd been going to. So immediately that was super inspiring. And, you know, that probably differs a little bit to a regular tattoo apprenticeship. You know? And there are artists here that are going through that full apprenticeship, and they're here day in, day out and grinding and gaining so much from that. And my opportunity sort of led me to make a trip here and to sort of do crash courses and be mentored in as much time as we had, and just try and learn as much as I could from all those people around this space and with all the information that was there. So even my journey probably looks a little bit different to other people in the tribal world. You know?
Yeah. Well, like you said, just speaking about going through your journey, you were getting tattoos way before you started actually tattooing. So just what changed on your perspective maybe in the tattoo industry from just getting all these tattoos to actually putting ink on people, and I don't know what you learned, what you don't learn, the ins and outs. What changed in your perspective?
Yeah, well, I think the first thing is I realized that that's probably going to continue to change. I think the more information you acquire and the more art and artists that you're exposed to, like I feel like those perspectives are just going to continue to roll in.
Right.
So my perspectives have been evolving even since I arrived here last year. So definitely the probably most profound is the concept of actually tattooing somebody else with with a tribal marking or with a storyline. Because what a lot of people talk about is the ambiance of a tattoo ceremony or of a tattoo session. Right?
Yeah.
And that for me has been a huge wake up call, because it's a vulnerable space. Like people are dealing with emotions because they're depicting maybe loved ones or trauma or people that they've lost in their lives in these tattoos. So they're dealing with emotion, then they're dealing with the physical aspect of sacrificing their body to go through pain.
Right.
And that space has opened up for me. Like I've really been able to connect with people and connect with not only the tattoo but with the culture. Every time I'm giving a tattoo, I feel like I'm getting further and further along into into my journey of identifying myself as a Filipino and ultimately as I probably struggle to say that, but as an artist, as a tattooist, so that perception of like I'm actually doing this and what I'm offering the client is has been the thing that shifted the most and also been the most rewarding.
Yeah, no, that sounds, I mean, just even hearing you speak about it, I could tell you that it's kind of changing, you in a way, and that's dope, man. To even, like, speak on how deep that means, is there, like, when you, I don't know, you mess up on something so clean, right? Is there a way of going to fixing that, or is there even messing up? I guess you could say on such clean line work, you know what I mean?
Yeah, well, I guess you do everything you can to avoid that. So you kind of measure twice, cut once. We in our world we do almost everything is freehand drawn.
Yes.
So, the first thing for me was learning how to grid the patterns and to find consistencies, by using a grid and make sure that things are measured the same. And then as you start learning about how, of course, the human body is perfectly imperfect. Right?
Yes.
So the left side is not the same as the right side. So this has been huge tips that I've learned in my time here is, creating illusions or even though something might be a couple of millimeters longer to the eye and to the body, maybe it's straight, maybe it's the same. So in terms of making mistakes, I'm certain that it happens, but I think the more information you have on the person that you're tattooing, on the body, and on the patterns themselves, I'm sure there are ways that you can amend that or still manage to to achieve the goal.
Yeah, right. Okay. Obviously, man, I'm here to talk about some tattoos. I usually ask people about certain images, this and that. I mean, obviously, tribal tattoos are a little different. This is my first cup of tea here. But let's just talk about, I guess, a body part.
Okay.
Let's just kind of maybe go with your left arm, or maybe left forearm, or full arm. If everything collides there, let's just speak on it.
So we typically would view the left side as a feminine side and the right side as a masculine side.
Oh, wow, okay.
So I actually drew in the beginning. This is one of the early pieces, right, that I drew. I had no idea what I was doing, but I had a huge passion for it and I wanted to draw. So without like the research, without the education,
just went for it type of thing.
I sort of went for it. So I designed everything with an intention for it to be feminine or to include femininity. So the line finer, I used lots of feminine motifs like ferns and woven symbols because that's typically what women would do, right? They would weave, they would be healers. So there's like plant medicine motifs. And that's sort of the basis. So there's inspirations from different tribes in northern Philippines that, typically are might not have tattooed on a male, but in modern times, and having my arm as an homage to those feminine figures,
Yeah.
I included those patterns on
Right,
my
it's
arm.
more of like with paying respect type of thing.
Yeah, so this was the main part of it is dedicated to, I guess, the feminine presence in my family and to my titas or my aunts.
Yeah.
I have motifs for them individually, their journeys in life, and sort of my aspirations for them,
Yeah.
past or present.
Mm-hmm.
And then I have also an interesting tattoo on my left arm once I extended that. So my niece is here as well because she's a feminine part of the family. I got that when she was born. But I also, the first time I went to visit Apo Wang Od, she's a very well-known, what we call Mama Batok, or a traditional Kalinga tattoo artist who lives in the northern mountain regions of the Philippines.
Okay.
So I went to visit her quite some time ago and receive a traditional tattoo there. To then later I drew and designed another tattoo that spoke about my journey going to visit her. So, you know, the pathway and sort of the feminine influence of that community up there with the woven pattern going through the mountains to receive like essentially a jewelry, which was the signature that she does. Very simple design of 3 dots, which probably is pretty well known at this point. Like online, she's become a bit of a sort of national icon in the Philippines, but
Okay.
I put that on the same arm because, you know, it was in line with the femininity.
Right, right.
And that sort of was an extension of that original story.
Yeah, and like when it comes to, because like you said, you get one section, you're getting another section. It almost looks as if you're getting a full sleeve. How do you collide that to match type of thing, or does that not even matter?
Well, I think it does for sure. I think in the beginning I probably wasn't planning for that. I like when I first got my tattoo, I was like, okay, I'll do a half sleeve.
Mm-hmm.
And then it was, okay, I'll extend on to the 3/4, and then I'll extend onto the chest. And then soon after I decided, well, actually I want to cover my body.
Yeah.
So I think that's a lot to do with the artist. That's why I think a lot of tattooists would prefer to do a really big piece and take sort of all of that real estate to put together something that's very cohesive.
Mm-hmm.
So
Even when it comes to like big pieces, sorry to interrupt, when it comes to big pieces, right? Is it that you got a long journey, or can I, you know, something so simple as a time could be such a big piece?
I think both. I think depending on the individual themselves, like the client, they all have different stories. So some people start getting tattooed a lot later in life, and people like myself, you know, I was unsure of where my journey was going to take me. So thankfully what's interesting is that a lot of the pieces that I get, even though my arms are sort of unique and there's like a little bit of contemporary framework and mixture of patterns, with the majority of my body I started to move towards a particular framework or a particular bodysuit. And it turned out that, you know, it was quite cohesive with those traditional tattoos. So I've just been continuing to add onto my story with a continued inspiration from those islands, that particular region.
Right,
Because
right.
in the Philippines, the tattoos look very different from the north to the central
I remember you
region
explaining
to
it,
the
right?
south. So
Yeah.
in the Filipino community, it's very identifiable. And thankfully, especially being here, I've had a lot of work done on me by Elle and Zell and Joseph and a bunch of the artists here. With their knowledge and like creative flair, they've been able to continue to add to my tattoo to really highlight like that traditional framework and patterns from those regions.
Right. And do you think that it puts you to an advantage because they somewhat kind of understand the journey that you're taking?
Absolutely.
Right,
Absolutely.
right. Yeah, okay.
Absolutely.
That's
And
dope.
for them, like even as a general client, you know, they strongly encourage people to get some research done. So we offer a research service here at Spiritual Journey where you basically have a questionnaire. You respond to details about yourself, your family,
Right.
your aspirations, your accomplishments, what languages your ancestors spoke, from which islands, you know, what things you resonate with in the natural world. So we encourage clients to do this. I mean, we can give you a tattoo of general patterns, or you can have a service of us doing specific research.
A little more deeper.
We go into it, we find patterns that correlate to your personal story, and then you basically get a chart of patterns that are fully explained as to why we chose that, you know, in reference to these people in your family, this time in your life, this goal of yours, this achievement. And then from there, the artists have a full chart of patterns that they then tattoo onto the client.
Right.
So that's a great example of how you can sort of introduce, you know, a personal story.
Right. Is it somewhere like similar to what like the Chinese do, kind of type of thing, where they kind of get their story and pitch it back type of? And they or do they make up with their own thing? I know kind of you like you said, you kind of go into what they're telling you and try to find the pieces, and I'm guessing put them together and make a piece.
Yeah, right. So maybe to make it make a little more sense. For example, in ancient times, the reasons for tattooing don't really look the same as they do today. So
right.
in some of the regions, people were known for headhunting and like, you know, were fierce warriors. So they received these tattoos after successful battles or after literally cutting the head off of an enemy.
Yeah, Indians, Vikings, and all this stuff. Right.
So for us, you know, we don't encourage people going out and cutting somebody's head off before they get a traditional
tattoo. This is a different way. It's a modern day.
So we have to adapt to the modern day. So a bunch of the tribe members use an expression or relatability, which I really like, is in terms of being a headhunter or taking heads. You know, within our tribe, you gain that status by educating people, by taking their minds and giving them information. So that's
dope.
You know, it's finding a relationship between things like that, the reasons behind tattooing, also the patterns. A lot of them are, you know, especially in the Philippines, they're all based on the natural world. So they're plant motifs, motifs of mountains and the sky,
the natural,
and animals.
Yo.
So we find relatability to what those things meant to those people originally. And also just generally what that animal, you know, how that animal expresses itself.
Yeah, represents.
What it represents itself. So a lot of it is common sense.
Yeah,
as well.
I get it.
But yeah, it's for instance like a snake motif on my leg might mean something completely different to a snake motif on somebody else's arm.
Yeah, right.
But we can find a relationship between, you know, that region or those patterns.
Right. Makes sense. It makes sense.
Yeah.
There's a lot of knowledge for everybody to soak in right there.
Yeah, sorry, man. Sometimes
man, we need it all. I'm willing to learn for sure. One of the things I seen on your Instagram there was you have some markings from Ethiopia, and I believe it says like it's labeled sacrifice. So what's the total meaning behind the markings, and just what was that experience like?
For sure. So I have a really keen interest in like tribal lifestyle and ancient civilizations. So another fact that a lot of people aren't aware of is in the Philippines we have a native people that are Afro. You know, the black people that were originated in the islands of the Philippines. So we call them, there are many different tribes, but they're mostly known as Aita. So these are like dark-skinned, curly-haired tribes that used to live all over, but especially also in the Visayas, which is where my ancestors come from. So also in Mindanao, in the south, people would practice scarification in the Philippines. So for me, I was super interested to see that and having learned that, you know, throughout Africa, there's a bunch of sacrificial sort of body art that happens and scarification. So I took a journey to go and discover it and learn, and I did an expedition for about 8 days going through different tribes in the Omo Valley of Ethiopia, literally sleeping in the villages and like going to gather honey and milk and blood.
Living the life.
It was incredible. And I think due to my constant inquiry, trying to learn touching these scars, one of the sort of, I guess, the chief figures in one of the tribes we went to visit offered to scar me.
I was gonna ask, like, do you pay money for that?
No.
It's just out of respect.
I think he saw that we were super interested, and that I was already had gone
The
through
tribal
a
stuff.
similar process, and they were asking a lot about that. What is this?
Yeah.
And we're translating, trying to
Right.
to sort of
Trying to
share
understand
things.
each other.
And it was a trip out because there were people in these tribes that had like scarification
Similar.
of the same motifs that I had, like designs of shamans.
That really is
like
a
in their
small
skin. I was
world,
like, yo, I
yeah.
got that tattooed on me, man.
Yeah.
So for me, it was an opportunity to sort of represent that Afro culture that exists in the Philippines, and also to just experience something extremely unique and cultural and ceremonial. And when I was invited to do so,
Yeah. Just to be, I mean, I don't know, that's an overall experience. Like you said, you're going through it day in, day out, and then be able to kind of, I don't know, that's like a king kind of crowning you type of thing, to be able to.
That's what it
like,
felt
hey,
like.
I feel your good energy, I see what's going on, and to be able to, I don't know, that's crazy to me that somebody, would, you like, I don't know, that's why I was wondering, you pay for this, do you earn it, or, so that's just a dope experience, hopefully I can make my way to something similar out that way.
Sure,
Because I'm so
interested.
interested in the whole process, especially the body markings and stuff. Like I said, I'm, my African American side, deep down roots were from Nigeria. So, hopefully I can gain such as knowledge as you are, you know what I mean, into that culture. So
for sure, there's some there, man. So
yeah.
I look forward to hearing about it when you.
When I get there, right. And I'm gonna look back on it, man. I'm gonna be like, man, you inspired me, and hopefully to continue my journey, and I'll get there just like you are. You know what I mean? So inspiring.
Appreciate the best, man.
Let's get into some more art. I know you got some freshly art back piece, side piece. More chunky lines, like you said, you were explaining, and seems like some pain in there.
Sure.
What's that? Just break it down to me, man. Break it down.
So basically, as I was explaining or just touching on before, the bodysuit we're working on is very closely inspired by what we know as the Visayan Pintados. So, for a brief history for people that aren't aware. Back in the day when the Spanish were navigating the world, it was one of the first sort of global expeditions at sea. There was a voyage led by a Portuguese dude who was actually flying under the Spanish flag. His name was Ferdinand Magellan. And he was, sailing the world, basically conquering it, and they rolled through the Philippines. And when they first encountered the people of the Visayan region, they noticed that they were heavily tattooed, like from head to toe. So the Spanish dubbed those islands, that area of the Philippines, Las Islas de los Pintados, or the islands of the painted ones, because of the heavily tattooed people.
Right.
So there's a long story involved, but essentially there was some chiefs that were in line with, I guess, succumbing to Spanish rule, and there were others that were not. So ultimately this led to a huge battle between a bunch of warriors and some Spanish soldiers. And given that the native people knew the land, knew the water, knew the tides, they sort of managed to start the battle at a particular time, that they knew that when the boats would come in, that the waters would be shallow. So actually, upon arriving to the islands, they got stranded, and then they were stormed by like hundreds more warriors than they were anticipating. And this Ferdinand Magellan was actually killed in the Battle of Mactan. And then the expedition was taken over by, still under the Spanish flag, but his voyage ended there. And the chief that was in charge of fighting against Magellan, he became a national icon hero. His name is Lapu Lapu. So my tattoos are based on those warriors and the framework that they had.
Right.
So we've been working on really making that evident and following the bold black lines that go around the neck, down past the ribs, and also sort of a zigzag pattern on the back, which we've innovated, again, talking about modern times, adaptability, not walking around with the same tattoos of a picture of somebody from 150 years ago that was telling their life story, what they did for work, whether they had rice, whether they were warriors, how many enemy they killed. I'm not that person, so I'm not going to wear those exact tattoos. But instead I can draw inspiration because I have ancestry from the Philippines, from those islands, from this region, and I can highlight that framework and then within that tell my own story.
Adapt it to yourself, to your personal self. Yeah. That's dope. Do you, just like saying it comes from warriors and stuff, that do you kind of see that as some sort of armor?
Absolutely. I mean, to me, it looks like armor. When especially this trip, when it started coming together, I felt like, looking at myself, I was like, wow, this is like I've put armor on.
Yeah.
And like, well, now when I'm shirtless, it's like I'm wearing clothing, which a lot of the time is, you know, probably part of the relationship for them is to, it's a symbol of protection in a lot of ways. It's a symbol of, you know, ferocity and of strength, and absolutely, I 100% see it as that.
That's crazy, because I think the same thing, just because going through the whole process of earning the tattoo, going through the pain, I kind of see it as that way. It's like you kind of have to earn the tattoo, and after earning that tattoo, it's kind of a shed of armor.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
totally.
that's dope. That's dope. Just you know, hearing you say that, because I mean, obviously the relation to the ancient warriors, but kind of modern day now, personalized, doing it to yourself, but wearing it as such.
We all fight in our own battles, you know.
Yeah, nah, man. We all, man, it's a crazy world we live in here. So yeah, I mean, everybody's going, you know, as a warrior deep down. Your main highlight, man, you're a chef. I haven't brought it up too much. You've been a chef a long time. You've been getting tattoos a long time.
Yeah.
How do those kind of co-align for you?
Yeah, there are kind of two ways that I could probably explain. The first is using my platform to promote the culture. So I've actually done 2 events already here since I've been in LA, and we hosted like, you know, Filipino dinners that were inspired by a traditional way of eating. So we call this a kamayan, where the table is laid with banana leaves. It's like typically shared food, and people are eating with their hands. So shout out to Buvon and Mongette and Tribe Sister Luna, because we hosted, you know, a series of 2 different events, dinners, where people came to, like, you know, a nice natural wine bar in Los Angeles, you know, that's otherwise got dressed tables and a functioning kitchen, and we dressed that thing with like banana leaves, and we asked people to eat with their hands. And I cooked Filipino food. So in those instances, I give myself and other people an opportunity to talk about the culture, to promote the tattoos, and that's just like a platform, you know. And secondly, an interesting one, which I just play around with sometimes, is using that art sometimes in the way that I prepare the food. So the best example I can give you is just messing around one day. I was making like a little like a savory pie, essentially, right?
Yes.
Like a fancy one. In France they call it a petit. So this is like a pastry that's stuffed with, you know, either a braised meat or a meat that gets cooked. So I was doing I think a petit with maybe some pigeon or something, you can like foie gras inside. And around the outside of the pastry, I took like a razor and I started carving like a centipede motif, which is very well known in the north of Philippines, and just carving it around the pastry and then like baking it. And then when it came out, it had these like almost like scarification on the food. And that was another way that I thought of, that I could sort of correlate the two. But
Yeah.
it's hard. It's just about, I think, giving a platform to show the tattoos, to talk about the culture, and to promote those ideas. And I'm working on a concept to try and, you know, link it a little bit tighter.
Yeah.
But it's complicated.
No, I mean, it's, at the end of the day, it's, you're pretty much promoting the culture. That's that's what you're all about. That's what this place is all about. And I could see, I mean, like I said, how passionate you are. Just, I mean, I am passionate, dedicated enough to kind of, that's what I feel like your journey is, and that's, and you know it. You know what I mean?
That's my
and
spiritual
that's
journey.
the whole thing. Yeah, like it's like, and you know it, and that's the thing. Everybody, hopefully sooner or later finds out their niche and able to shed their light in however way they shed their light. And you pretty much doing it, man. I mean, like you said, you're with the tattoos and kind of being able to shed your light in different, not only in America and in different regions of the world, which is dope. You know what I mean? Like,
Appreciate it.
so I just think that's dope. And like you said with the chef stuff, like obviously you're making good food there, but you're still kind of pushing the culture. So that's dope, man. I mean, from head to toe, obviously, we know what you're representing and what you're pushing out there. And and like I said, I just appreciate you're dropping knowledge, man. Like, this is dope. We're here kind of late. Shop's about to close, so just thank you for making time out your day and sitting down with me.
With pleasure, man. That's the goal. That's why I committed to going this far with the tattoos, to committing to the bodysuit, is because it promotes inquiry, and that gives an opportunity to share information, to share culture. So actually, I should thank you for giving me the opportunity to share a little bit about that.
Yeah, my whole little T2T community, man, they're gonna love this, because it's just like, I'll probably watch this over and over again just to soak up all the knowledge you drop, man, because it's like, I feel like I know a thing about tattoos, but going through all this, it's like I really don't know anything. I'm barely scratching the surface of the knowledge. So hopefully I can get out there and search just like you did, and this will be my platform of doing so. So again, thank you for the knowledge, bro. Thank you.
My pleasure, man. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. First and foremost, without a doubt, it's my tribe family, the Four Ways family, the whole Four Ways movement. And the head of that snake is Monsieur Elfeston. So without him, as I said in the interview, he encouraged me, he invited me here to learn and to do my research. So without all the love from that tribe family and the belief and encouragement from El especially, I wouldn't be in this position, and my life wouldn't be heading in the direction that it's going. So huge shout out to them, of course, the original Datus and founding members of the tribe, to my ancestors and to my family, and everybody that's just encouraging and promoting the movement of preserving this culture, and not especially Filipino, but also to our brothers in Aotearoa, in Samoa, in Tahiti, in Norway, and the Vikings out there, all the Africans that are reviving that shit. Like, hold on to that and preserve it, because it's rich, and it offers us something even today when life looks a little bit different and we look a little bit different. Like, there's a lot to gain from that culture. And shout out to all the people that are doing that for themselves and for for the people involved in their culture.
Yeah, dope.
We owe it to our ancestors to bless and be blessed for the preservation of our culture. Western assimilation is starting to overtake thought processes now, and it makes the youth believe that being blinded by material holds more value. Our weight in gold is our stories and how we raise our youth for the future to come.